Thank you for staying us on the show, everyone. Dr. Jide Johnson, as Chief Lecturer at Nigerian Institute of Journalism, thank you so much for staying the course on the program. Well, the show feels a lot like journalist hangout right now because our next guest is also a former regional editor with the Nigerian Tribune, former group politics editor with Leadership newspaper, and was associate editor with New Telegraph. He is the current member, House of Representatives, representing Ilaje, Eseodo Federal Constituency, Honorable Donald Ojogo. Thank you so much for joining us on the program this morning, Honorable.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
All right. We'll like to also, quickly commensurate with you on the demise of Aketi and that of your younger sister, which we understand happened a few days after. Please receive our deepest sympathies, Honorable.
Well, I thank you. I thank you for your very comforting words, and we believe that the Creator, God Almighty, gives and He takes. And it is my sincere belief that those who left us in peace are going to rest in the bosom of the Lord.
All right, so,
words from everywhere.
Absolutely. We thank you for also, rising to the occasion, doing the job that you are elected for. So let's get to it. We hear that the leadership of the 10th House lobbied for additional palliatives for your constituents across the country. While the House spokesman was quoted to have said lawmakers were given palliatives, some lawmakers deny receiving anything. Perhaps you can give us some clarity to this development. How much does each lawmaker get? Is it cash or items?
Well, in the first place, the challenge I have now is the background to your question, additional palliatives. Maybe it will be proper, if it will be proper, maybe you put it in a better perspective, which of the, what came first. And
I get your point, Honorable. And I understand where the mix-up is coming from, because last year, lawmakers were alleged to have received the 100 million naira in cash, attributing to the 70 billion naira earmarked for new lawmakers at the National Assembly. But the one I'm talking about right now is a report from a special assistant to the president who mentioned that there's been the distribution of palliatives worth 200 million naira to senators and 100 million naira worth to each member of the House of Representatives. That report has also been confirmed by the House of Representatives, who is spokesman of the.
Yeah, it's clearer for me now. Well, in the first place, I wouldn't want to delve into a statement that was made by an individual that also been repudiated by that same individual. The special assistant or the SSA to the president that we are referring to, I think it should be Olusegun Dada also. He made that statement, and just a few hours ago, it was reported to have made, about 12 hours ago, it was reported to have made another statement repudiating his earlier statement. So it means that it will be difficult for me to also, make it an issue of public discourse. So he said what he wanted to say, and he came to say another thing. So which one would Nigerians believe that is another thing that is a challenge for him to also clear from his table? Having said that, I think this issue of palliative, rice or beans or whatever people might want to call it, is a phenomenon that is not new. It's not new in the sense that it's one of the blackmail stunts that the National Assembly is made to face. And I want to say, as a journalist of many years standing, I've also had the experience, and I'm experienced enough to know that each session of the National Assembly carries an integrity or personality deficit into its periods. And this 10th session of the National Assembly is not different. But if we want to discuss this matter properly, I want Nigerians to know the truth about it, and if I'm permitted to also do same to it, I will be speaking in my capacity as a colleague of yours, and who had the privilege of serving Nigerians in the National Assembly, particularly my constituents from Ilaje Eseodo. So one, I am talking to you as a colleague. And secondly, I'm also talking to you as a representative of my people, but not as a spokesperson of the House of Reps of the 10th National Assembly. That has to be made clear. Because I have a right to say what I think is necessary to clear the air on very gray issues. And that is exactly what I am doing. So what I am doing basically is the right to self-explanation. So that is it. I have to put it in proper perspective before we continue. Not speaking for the National Assembly. So, but the point is this. The first 100 million naira you alluded to, that lawmakers got, I wish we got that money. Because I'm also a new lawmaker. I wish we got the money. That is the issue. Nigerians have come to have this perception that the National Assembly is a very corrupt institution. However strong that perception is, however, how do I put it? However aggressive it is pushed against the members of the National Assembly, we will always not shy away from saying the truth, and we also not shy away from being modest and very moderate in our approach to it. Because we cannot but be uncharitable to the constituents and to Nigerians that we represent, no matter what they say about us. So it's a burden that we have come to carry.
Yeah. You recall that there's a 70 billion naira in the supplementary budget. The explanation at the time was that it was to improve the working conditions of new members, which you are one of them. Are you saying that that money in the supplementary budget did not get to you? It wasn't disbursed for what it was, earmarked for?
Well, that is where when I started, I asked you to put it in proper perspective so that we could have a clear understanding of the question we're asking. It is either the media is also modeling up issues, or there is a deliberate misinformation to the media to shun out against the National Assembly. I am a member of the National Assembly, the first timer, and I'm telling you here that there was no such money of 100 million naira cash that was given to National Assembly members. If that was done, I would be one of the happiest persons, because it will improve the lot of my people. It will go a long way in improving the very sorry state of my constituents, both as individuals and as a collective. What I'm telling you right now is that whatever information that is shown out about the National Assembly is verifiable. Why won't people engage in knowledge session to ensure that whatever information that is available, whether it is against the National Assembly or it is for or in favor of the National Assembly, there must be that urge to find out if it is true or not. I am telling you here that it is not true that 100 million naira was given to each and every member of the National Assembly. But let us not go too far.
Butting in, but I just want the viewer to also, get the information very clearly. I get your point that you did not get 100 million cash, but I'm also telling you where that insinuation came from. It was from the 70 billion naira supplementary budget. Can you quickly speak to that? Because the explanation was that it was to better your working condition as new members of the House.
Yeah, when as a member of the National Assembly, one of the conditions for proper representation is when you have been able to impact modestly or positively on your constituents. Working condition, proper and effective working condition does not necessarily mean your personal comfort. This 100 million naira that is in circulation about rice or connected to rice is a thing that is budgeted for. So I have a very difficult situation trying to dissect whether, when people say 100 million naira worth of items or 100 million naira cash was given to National Assembly members by Mr. President. Mr. President did not give money to National Assembly members. Whatever expenditure embarked upon by the National Assembly in conjunction with the executive arm that is headed by Mr. President could only have been through budgeted provisions. It couldn't have been unappropriated funds. And let me put it properly here. Rise or no rise, the President and the leadership of the House, in their very ingenious motives, felt that, yes, there is a great negative impact on the people over the removal of the fuel. The consequence of various House of Reps members or National Assembly members is to ensure that there is a subtle way of providing palliatives, what we call palliatives for the people. So what we did, or what the National Assembly leadership and the executive arm did, was to have an agreement and make a budgetary provision for what I categorize as a proxy transaction. Because the National Assembly members, even though there was an agreement that food items worth 100 million naira should be given to each federal constituency through the House of Reps members. I'm not talking about the Senate now because I'm not a member of the Senate. The National Assembly member, particularly the House of Reps members, did not have the opportunity of even seeing the cash. In fact, we were not even interested in seeing the cash because it is even against the Procurement Act. As a lawmaker, you are not even entitled to even engage in procurement. It is not done. We had the privilege. Let me put it properly again here. If you want to understand it, we dissect it into three levels of analysis. Yes, was there an agreement or was there any policy statement that the National Assembly members should be entitled to these kind of things to be given to their constituents? Yes, it is true. Again, did the National Assembly members receive cash? It is not true. Did the National Assembly members get involved in the procurement process? It is untrue. The process was midwifed, the process of firming up all these arrangements was handed over to the Ministry of Agric. As I'm talking to you, as at this morning, this is 11:31, I doubt if any of the contractors has a copy of the BOQ. You can't engage in contract without having. BOQ is one of the first stages of any contracting process. If a contractor has not been given his BOQ, how does he make his supply? But because they felt that it will be difficult rather, for National Assembly members to have equal status in terms of financial capacity, the presidency, the executive, and the National Assembly leadership, there must be a way, there must be a leverage, there must be a template where even those who do not have the same financial capacity, like others, who have a leveling template to be able to touch their constituents. And that was where the issue of 100 million naira food items came about. So that National Assembly members would not go and cap in hand, begging contractors or going to bank to obtain facilities to impress their constituents during the Christmas and New Year season. That was what happened. Unfortunately, by the time this was firmed up, it was agreed that this arrangement must be allowed to suffice.
All right. Let me jump in, Honorable.
Excuse me, please. Excuse me, if you can allow me to land. And nobody was able to lay his hands on any of these items before 2 weeks to that period. So that made some of us to take very proactive and anticipatory measures. That since Mr. President, in his own wisdom, and the leadership of the House, they have agreed, and since these things are budgeted for, then we can, on our own, engage in some anticipatory measures to ensure that our constituents have at least some comforting measures of season for the Christmas period and the New Year period. That was why some of us went ahead. So some actually went to obtain loan facilities. Some went to even engage contractors. We didn't even nominate the contractors. That is the truth. But it would be unfair for us to even say that we didn't have a fair idea of those contractors because we were given the privilege of being notified who those contractors were. After all, you will definitely not be kept in the dark if somebody who has been contracted to supply food items to an area is unknown to you. It will be unfair. So we know the contractors, even though we did not unpick the contractors. We were given the privilege to know, we were notified that these are your contractors. But these contractors, I can tell you, have not been able to obtain the BOQ for the contracts that they have been engaged to perform.
I hear you, Honorable. Your colleague Akin Rotimi, who is spokesperson of the House of Reps, representing, my people in Ikole and Oye, seem to have also corroborated some of the things you said. According to him, the procurement process is at different stages depending on the constituency, and you have mentioned that the procurement was done through the Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security. We'll talk more about, how the distribution is expected to be done and how soon this is supposed to kickstart. But I also have a journalist here who has gray hair like you. I would like to hear from you, because prior to bringing the Honorable, you were talking about how much burden the lawmakers have to carry in reaching out to their constituencies, and if this is a constitutional role for them.
Yeah, first and foremost, like he said it's, he corroborated what I said earlier. It's not within the core function for them to do procurement, like he said, Procurement Act. For me, it's about the burden that has been placed on some certain agency. Now imagine Ministry of Agric taking care of 360 House of Rep members, 109 senators for the procurement. Over centralization. Korea have been decentralized. Imagine if that money had been injected into the local economy of these 360. Look for a local contractor within your federal constituency to take care of this particular issue. Look for a local contractor within your senatorial district to take care of this issue. And then, like he said, each of the assembly had usually come in with some perceptual baggages on the pages of newspaper as of members have received. And like he pointed out, they've not even received any of the items that they've allegedly been accused of. As far as I'm concerned, I was looking forward to my House of Rep member to sending me some palliative in my own federal constituency when I received the news that they've gotten 100 million for the palliatives. It's important for all of these issues to be clarified. And the challenge I've always had with the National Assembly is that they don't really clarify issues. Now, you see what Donald said. First and foremost, he said he's speaking as a citizen who has the right of reply, not as the spokesperson for the National Assembly. And you see, the clarification which he has brought into that particular matter has not even been brought by even the official spokesperson for the House. And no. I wonder, when you were reading this, I wonder how in Nigeria we usually put the square peg in a round hole. I'm coming.
Don't let us go there.
No, I'm just saying.
They determine who heads.
No, that's what I'm saying. That in Nigeria, you have a penchant. That's my opinion. We have a penchant of putting the square peg in a round hole and round peg in a square hole.
Let me hold you for a minute. Folashade has called in from Agodo. Good morning, Folashade. I'm sorry you had to wait that long, but the conversation can be so spontaneous that we don't accommodate phone calls at times, so you can try again. Honorable, quickly, give us some more clarity, because the spokesman's contribution, for many, they believe that you have received the palliatives. How long more? Because we saw some of your colleagues, give out some stuff during your time. So, many Nigerians thought that maybe it's part of the monies we're talking about. But what level are we now with the procurement process, and how soon do you think these items will be delivered?
Well, I don't know. You have to permit me if I'm being philosophical about with what you have asked. Every bit of information is very important and very useful, but not every bit of communication helps matters. If you miscommunicate and there's a dysfunctional communication on any issue at any given point in time, it will create problem. That is where we're having problem. That particular House of Reps member you are talking about played politics, and that is where we have found ourselves. Yes, there are some House of Reps members who have the capacity, who have also been doing it even before now, to buy 5 trailers load of rice, 10 trailers loads, some can even buy cars. They have been doing it before now. But if you are contesting governorship election and you think that the only way to rubbish your opponents who are also members of the National Assembly is to go and showcase what didn't exist. You said Tinubu gave you. That is even the most uncharitable way of gratitude to Mr. President and the Speaker of the House of Representatives, who were able to come together to fathom out this. It has never happened before. So let's forget about that man who came to the public to miscommunicate. He gave an information. I wouldn't want to use the word misinformed. Yes, but I am also among those who have given out. For instance, that is within the capacity that God has given to me. I have given out a trailer of rice to my constituents. I've also procured a sizable number of solar lights. And that is where the issue needs clarification specifically from the Ministry of Agric. The silence or the indifference on the seeming lukewarm attitude of the Ministry of Agric is also not helping matters. Why have they not come out to clarify that yes, we are the ones engaged to midwife this process and that we are still on it? We are here to even give BOQs. So the issue of members of the National Assembly, particularly members of the House of Reps, being given trailers of rice is out of place. So we knew that this process, some of us suspected, when it was 2 or 3 weeks to Christmas and New Year, that this process was going to backfire, that we're not going to have these items delivered by these respective contractors. So some of us, like I said, went through banks, some engaged contractors, and at very exorbitant negotiating terms to ensure that at least in anticipation of what the president and the leadership of the House had agreed that we come in line with what had been appropriated for in the 2024 Appropriation Act. We went to ensure that our constituents do not have a low-key or a no celebration level in their various constituencies. That was what we did. Somebody like me, for instance, I don't shy away from saying the truth. Where would I have had the money of buying a trailer load of rice of 35, 32 million naira to go and give to my people? How much have I saved as a member of the National Assembly to be able to do that? But for this opportunity that I have to leverage upon. But because there's already a policy statement, but because there's already an arrangement in place, and because I suspected that it might take a longer time for this thing to come, I decided to take it was a risk worth taking. It was a risky opportunity I jumped at. I wouldn't have waited because my constituents would not have even listened to me that I didn't bring even a grain of rice to solidarize with them. In spite of the emotional stress one is going through, that is just by the way. It is by the side. You have to ensure that you put smiles on the faces of your constituents. That is what some of us have done. There are some even with or without the palliatives that is appropriated for. They can do something for their constituents. But not all of them have, all of us have the capacity to do likewise. And that is why we find solace in this opportunity that came, and we also equally had to take the risky measures of embarking on anticipatory procurement on our own, some making arrangements with some banks, while others also made arrangements with some of their contractors at very exorbitant negotiating terms to ensure that we please our constituents. In spite of that, we have received the bashing, which is also
a few minutes, and take this call from Ikeja. Good morning, Mr. Judge.
Good morning, Ifemis. Greetings to Dr. Johnson and the honorable member.
Thank you, sir.
The problem I see with our lawmakers is this inability to be transparent. The gentleman you are interviewing in Abuja is saying on one hand that they did not receive anything. Later on, he changed it to say there was an agreement to receive something, but the thing has not come. Which one do we believe? Before the thing came, the information came to the public when a lawmaker in Edo State videoed what he procured with the money and said that this is how much we were giving. Before then, there was no lawmaker that said the federal government has an arrangement with us to procure rice for the populace. None of them said it. Where is the transparency in all these things? If that lawmaker in Edo State had not come out to, circulate that video on social media, perhaps no lawmaker will have come out to say, I was giving, or an arrangement was made to procure 100 million worth of rice for my constituents. This is where the problem lies. We are talking about fraud in the humanitarian ministry now. The process and the characters at play are the things that are frustrating the efforts of the government. The one who will come to the press and condemn government, he is only doing that because he hasn't had a personal opportunity to also be tested.
I hear you, Mr. Judge. Thank you for your contribution. Honorable, do you agree that there wasn't more transparency as to these palliatives?
I agree to an extent, but to a larger extent, I disagree. And the extent to which I agree with the last caller is that, yes, there must be constant engagement, so that there could be this element of trust between the representatives and the represented, which is very key. It's very important. Once there is constant engagement with the people, it is also in our own interest to tell the populace certain things that the populace does not even know about, so that you will relieve yourself the burden of coming to explain much more later. Because by the time a perception is established in the minds of Nigerians, it becomes difficult. The last caller is somebody, even though I've not met him before, is somebody I don't know, but he appears to be a gentleman who is well grounded in the affairs of Nigeria. But he also has a predicament. The predicament is this perception that has stuck, that has refused to change, even when we are engaging ourselves. You can't blame him. But he already held a perception on his own that no, this thing that they said, it has happened. For instance, it is not possible for someone to, within 2 days, get a trailer of rice from wherever it is produced. If you are getting a trailer of rice to your constituents today, it means you embarked on that process a week or 10 days ago. That is the truth, unless we are deceiving ourselves. So it's not as if because the man from Edo State came, we now went to bring out those things from our warehouses. That means we'll have minimum of 360 warehouses kept in our different federal constituencies. It is not true. The same perception he has, that is what the same perception some of my constituents have. And I don't blame them. Some of them will hide under partisan politics to abuse you, to insult you. But we have a duty to absorb everything. We have a duty to continue to explain. I've done that severally. But I also see that as a major and a fundamental opportunity to tell Nigerians that, yes, something like that was agreed upon, but nobody, no lawmaker can conveniently, and I challenge any lawmaker to come and say here that, yes, I've received that, unless you have done that in anticipation of what is coming. So
all right, Honorable,
to say that
just a minute.
Is not fair on us.
Quickly, tell us what the role of the lawmakers are in the procurement and distribution process, because fundamentally we hear the Minister of Agriculture. We have no role. The role we have is just the role of sit-down look, as far as procurement is concerned. Yes, the only opportunity we have is a slight opportunity of knowing who your contractor is. It's the slight opportunity of suggesting to the appropriate MDA, in this case to the Ministry of Agri, through the appropriation committee, what you intend to be giving to your people. Is it rice you want? Is it gari? Is it beans? Is it wheat? Yes, we were given that opportunity to suggest commodities or the items. Even at that, by the time these suggestions got to the Ministry of Agri, some of them were changed unilaterally without notifying the National Assembly, were changed by the Ministry of Agri without our knowledge. That is why in my own case, for instance, when I suggested particular items, particularly rice and beans, what did they bring for me that I should supply through my contractor? When I saw the contractor, I saw his letter that they gave to him, and they brought rice and solar lights. How does solar lights solve the immediate problem of a constituent who wants to enjoy rice or beans during the New Year period? How does it? So those are the issues we are talking about. If we were in charge as a body, that lapse would not have come up. So even ourselves as a body, as individuals, as lawmakers, and as a collective, as an institution, we are not happy. We are unhappy with the Ministry of Agri for putting us through this mess. I hear you, Honorable. Basharun has called in from Lagos, right? Hello, Basharun. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
You have 1 minute. Please go ahead with your contribution.
Okay. Good morning, my brother. Jonas, that is talking there is a very known person to me. He's a young, vibrant boy. If I can call him my younger brother, he doesn't lie.
I'm not that
for many years. Anything he's saying there, just take it like that as the truth. He doesn't know how to pretend. We were involved in the academic re-election time. They brought money for campaign. Some people are ready to cut corner. Commissioners at his own level. Donor call laws to tell us this is what they gave them. He doesn't tell lie. And all those things that he brought to, I'm from Uktibai, the federal constituency is from Ilaje Seldo. All those things he brought, we knew how he said something that is very germane. He said it's too risky to get money to buy those things. This money, he said, may not come. We know Nigerians. So if he doesn't come again, he's in trouble. He doesn't tell us everything he's saying today. Every Nigerian should take as the truth.
All right.
We are tested.
We may have to introduce you to Guinness Book of Record. Perhaps we'll have the first politician that doesn't tell lie in Nigeria. But hold that thought, Honorable. Let me hear from Dr. Johnson. All this money that we are sharing, right? You know, you remember.
No, the interesting thing is that this was, Donald said something which was shocking and very, very surprising. You made requisition for rice and somebody is providing solar light. In what way is solar light a palliative to solve a particular problem? I think that, and that takes us to the crux of the matter, which I said earlier, that there is a need for us to eradicate anything that has to do with palliative or poverty alleviation, because at the end of the day, it has been subjected to varied abuse. Now, just imagine the House of Rep matter being handled by the Ministry of Agric. And then the Minister of Agric is talking about solar panel. Is Ministry of Agric Minister of Power? Is Ministry of Agric Minister of Power? So sometimes some of these, we have laudable programs. Just check all government programs. Fantastic. Areas where we have failed has to do with execution and implementation of these policies and various bodies that are required to provide some certain services at various levels. Now, in this matter, what is EFCC doing? Now, there's a budgetary allocation based on the understanding of the leadership of the National Assembly, led by the Senate President and the Speaker of the House of Rep, with the executive, headed by the President, that, okay, there's a need for us to have a 70 billion naira money to be spent on. What is EFCC doing with respect to monitoring how this money is being spent?
Chidi has called in from Kafancha. Chidi, you have 1 minute. Please go ahead with your contribution.
Good morning, Mesemi.
Good morning.
Good morning, Joshua.
Good morning, Chidi.
My take here is I've listened with keen interest with all you have discussed so far. But I want to believe and I want to encourage the government to take a proper data of civil servants, pay them a living wage, and from the living wage that these civil servants will be receiving, from there it will go down to the poor people. The initiative of giving palliative and saying all this, the dynamics that is being discussed over there, can never help Nigeria in any way. And the more people are abused to the point of having nothing to lean their back on, the more the insecurity we are talking about rages on. Therefore, the government should take a comprehensive list of those who are actively working and pay them a living wage.
All right.
God bless Nigeria.
Thank you so much, Chidi, for your contribution. You know, we've been talking about how noble government's intention has been, but the implementation has been quite challenging. Just over the UTAD period, the federal government talked about free train transportation, and then we went there with our cameras, and you'll be shocked the rot that is happening there. People cannot buy these tickets online, and then there's ticket racketeering. Some people asked to pay for it. Perhaps some other time, Honorable, we're going to find time to talk about Ondo South. We thought that you would join us earlier. Quickly, let me have your final thoughts on this development in a minute, Honorable.
Yeah, well, what I can say totally is that, first and foremost, this is the first time the executive led by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, and the leadership of the National Assembly will find it expedient to take off the burden certain level of burden from lawmakers through legal and lawful means by way of appropriating for funds that will ameliorate the sufferings of our constituents. It merely coincided with the festive period. And if it continues like that, we'll be happy. So that lawmakers will be relieved of trying to run around to get minimum of 50, 60 million naira to please their constituents. But if this continues, it will be very novel and it will be very, very instructive to us. That is one. Then, I want the media to interrogate the Ministry of Agric. Why is the Ministry of Agric silent? Why have they not been able to come up with a statement telling us the level at which they are, telling us the level they have gone, telling Nigerians whether actually, if it is true that lawmakers have been giving this, their palliatives or not. That is one. And secondly, we have a fear. We have not confirmed it, but let me take the risk of saying it on national television. We hear some stories that the Ministry of Agric, and mind you, supply of grains are in the contracting system rather. Yes, they are not taxable. You don't tax grains, but we have information that there are likely to be deductions from that 100 million naira. When it is paid, it means that the 100 million naira might not be paid fully to the contractors themselves. It means that the supply of these items might be greatly affected, and negatively too. So Nigerians should be aware of that. They don't tax grains. Please.
That's our time. Thank you so much. Honorable Donald Ojogo is a member, House of Representatives, representing Ilaje, SO, the federal constituency. He also served as Deputy Chief of Staff and later two-time Information Commissioner under the late Governor Akeredolu. Thank you so much for your time and talking to us. I've also been speaking with Chief Lecturer at Nigerian Institute of Journalism, Dr. Jide Johnson. Glad to have you here always.
It's a pleasure to be with you. Thank you, Nifemi.
Gentlemen, thank you for joining us. That's our show today. The conversation continues on X, formerly Twitter. Remember to use the hashtag this morning and tag at Nifemi Oguntoye. I'll see you again tomorrow, God willing.